Night settles quietly over northern Ukraine on April 25, 1986. The city of Pripyat glows softly beneath street lamps, a model Soviet town built for the workers of the nearby nuclear power station. Apartment windows flicker with television light. Children sleep. Somewhere in the distance, the cooling towers of the Chernobyl plant breathe out white vapor into the cold spring air. Inside Reactor No. 4, the night shift begins. The control room is crowded with engineers and operators, their faces lit by panels of blinking lights and analog meters. The air smells faintly of warm electronics and graphite dust. They are preparing for a routine safety test, one that has been delayed for nearly 10 hours because the electrical grid needed the reactor's power during the day. The plan is simple, at least on paper. They want to know how long the spinning turbines can continue generating electricity after a power loss. If the reactor ever shuts down suddenly, those extra seconds could keep coolant pumps running until emergency generators start. It's nearly midnight when the operators finally receive permission to reduce power. The reactor begins descending slowly from its daytime output of 3,200 megawatts. But something unexpected happens. At 12:28 a.m., the power level drops too quickly, far lower than planned. The control panel needles fall towards zero. In the control room, tension rises. The reactor is now unstable, operating in a dangerous state where the nuclear reaction behaves unpredictably. But the test schedule remains. Engineers begin pulling control rods out of the reactor core to raise power again, one by one. Each rod normally slows the nuclear reaction. Removing them accelerates it. Minutes pass. At 1 a.m., the reactor finally stabilizes at a fragile level, around 200 megawatts, far below safe test conditions. Dozens of control rods remain withdrawn, far more than regulations allow. Outside the building, the night is silent. Inside the reactor core, 1,600 channels of uranium fuel glow with invisible heat as water rushes through them to carry that heat away. The design of the reactor, an RBMK model, contains a dangerous flaw. At low power levels, steam bubbles forming in the coolant can actually increase the nuclear reaction instead of slowing it down. But this detail remains buried in engineering documents few operators have ever read. At 1:22:30 a.m., preparations accelerate. The turbines are ready. Cooling systems are adjusted. Safety mechanisms that might interrupt the test are quietly disabled to prevent them from interfering. In the control room, operators glance at their instruments. Some readings look strange, but the test has already been delayed too long. At exactly 1:23:04 a.m., the experiment begins. The steam valves close. The turbines start to slow. Water flow through the reactor begins to decrease as the pumps lose power. Inside the core, steam bubbles form rapidly, and with them, the nuclear reaction begins to surge. Within seconds, the power level rises violently. Meters spike. Warning lights flash across the control panels. One operator realizes what's happening and reaches for the emergency shutdown button, AZ5. At 1:23:40 a.m., he presses it. The command should end everything. All control rods begin descending into the reactor core to stop the chain reaction. But the rods themselves contain graphite tips, another hidden design flaw. As they enter the core, those graphite ends briefly accelerate the reaction instead of stopping it. Inside Reactor No. 4, power skyrockets. Not gradually, instantly. In less than 1 second, the reactor surges to more than 100 times its intended power. Fuel channels rupture. Water flashes into steam with explosive force. At 1:23:44 a.m., the first explosion tears through the reactor. The massive 2,000-ton steel lid above the core lifts like a coin tossed into the air. Seconds later, a second explosion follows, more violent than the first. The roof of the reactor building collapses. Chunks of burning graphite scatter across the facility. Flames shoot into the night sky. Across Pripyat, residents wake to the distant sound of thunder. But there is no storm. At the plant, firefighters arrive within minutes. They climb onto the shattered reactor roof where glowing debris lies scattered across the tar. They don't know the fragments around them are pieces of the reactor core itself. They step over them. Outside, flames continue burning through the night. Helicopters will soon arrive. Soldiers will seal roads. Scientists will begin measuring radiation levels so high their instruments fail. But for now, it is still just another quiet Soviet night. In Pripyat, families step onto their balconies to watch the distant glow above the power station. Some bring their children outside to see the strange blue light flickering above the reactor. They don't know the air around them is already filled with radioactive particles drifting slowly through the city. At dawn, fishermen cast their lines into the Pripyat River. Children ride bicycles through empty streets. And over Reactor No. 4, the fire continues to burn, an invisible storm rising into the sky, carrying with it pieces of a disaster the world has not yet begun to understand.